Last week we had Oregon and Washington. This week we've got Penn State and Ohio State. Another massive top 10 showdown with major college football playoff implications. So will Penn State finally get over the hump and beat Ohio State? Or will the Buckeyes once again take down the Nittany Lions and show to the country that they are absolutely deserving of that top 3 ranking? That is the question that we're going to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We are on a 43-18 run against the spread right now. Yes, again, 43-18. That's over 70%. We're beating out over 80% of the national handicappers. If you want to win big with us this season, go sign up for those expert picks. It's one of the lowest prices in the entire country for a full year-long subscription. So you buy now, you get it all the way through week 8 of next year, full 365 days. So go win with us today. We are 10 away from reaching our goal for the year. We'd love for you guys to sign up, not just to help us out, but to help yourself out, because you will win big with us. We can guarantee you that. No one else is going to match what we're doing here at the Gridiron Expert. So let's take a look at this game. I love it, man. 2 weekends in a row, we get 2 top 10 matchups. Number 7, Penn State. Number 3, Ohio State. This is what it's all about. And this is one of those games that we've had circled on our calendar for a long, long time. Major for the Big Ten East, as we know, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, all contenders for that division, all contenders for the college football playoff. This is going to be step 1 of kind of determining who wins the division. We always said how Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan fare against each other will determine who wins it. This is the first meeting involving any of those 3 teams. You know, back in 2016, we talked about it. Penn State was put back on the map. They pulled off that massive upset over Ohio State, and that was what kind of gave James Franklin the jump start with this program to get them back to where they needed to be. But Penn State hasn't defeated Ohio State since then. Penn State has lost 6 straight to Ohio State, including 44-31 last year in a game that was much closer than the final score indicated. No doubt about that. 6 straight losses. They've lost them by an average of 8 points per game. Very, very close games, very competitive games. And I have a feeling we're going to be in store for another close thriller this time around. You take a look at the offenses, guys. Penn State, they are balanced. They are efficient. They are dang good. This team, guys, for Penn State has all the pieces to finally make it to the college football playoff. I feel like if they want to do it, if they want to break through under James Franklin, this needs to be the year to do it, and that's going to require them to beat Ohio State. They're averaging over 230 passing yards per game, nearly 200 rushing yards per game, for a combined over 430 total yards per game on the year. Drew Aller, guys, he has lived up to the hype. We heard so much about him last year. We were all anxious to see what he would be like this year, and he has not disappointed. Over 1,200 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. This guy has not turned the ball over this year, and that's going to be key, right? When you're facing a stingy Ohio State defense like this one, especially on the road, you've got to take good care of the football. You've got to deliver, and you've got to show up, man. Got to show up. If Penn State wants to win, they are going to have to have a big day from Drew Aller. Because I love the running backs. I love Katron Allen. I love Nick Singleton. Both have rushed for over 300 yards on the year. And again, they're averaging nearly 200 rushing yards per game on the year as a team. But Ohio State's not going to allow Penn State to be extremely balanced. They're not going to allow them to complement one another, which means Drew Aller can't rely heavily on just his defense in the running game to carry there. He's going to have to make some big-time plays through the air. And I believe he can do that, especially if the offensive line can give him time, which so far this season they have. The offensive line has not only created running lanes for the Nittany Lions, they've only given up 4 sacks all year. So if you give him time, allow him to stay in the pocket, work through his progressions, and deliver, Penn State's got a very good chance to come on the road and pull off this upset. Ohio State, on the other hand, you look at their offense, it's funny. We said if they win, they'll prove to the country they're worthy of that top 3 ranking. We're not saying they're not, right? But I think a lot of people have slept on Ohio State, which is ridiculous because they did go on the road and they beat Ohio State. They've looked good for the most part of this year. I think they looked at those first 2 games where they kind of didn't look that impressive against Indiana and Youngstown State and said, oh, Ohio State's not as good as they used to be, or not as good as we thought they'd be, and that's ridiculous. The Buckeyes are still undefeated. They've got a very impressive victory in South Bend, and right now they're averaging over 300 passing yards per game with Kyle McCord, who's been playing lights-out football. He's already thrown for over 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception. So the slander that people have sometimes been given to Kyle McCord, the slander they're throwing at Ohio State and their offense, I don't understand it because they've been playing some really good football. They really have. Marvin Harrison Jr. is absolutely phenomenal. Already has over 600 reception yards on the year. Emeka Egbuka missed last week's game against Purdue. Didn't matter. Ohio State still won 41-7. Hopefully he will be back in time for this game, as well as their running back Travion Henderson, who missed last week's game as well. Didn't matter. Ohio State was still phenomenal. Hopefully he'll be back for a game of this magnitude. So having Ohio State's offense fully healthy, that's going to be a very big key. Finding their success on the ground is the biggest key for Ohio State, right? This is a team that obviously wants to throw the football. Why wouldn't you when you have one of the best wide receiver corps in the country? But they've got to find success on the ground. This is a team that's rushed for at least 100 yards in 5 of their 6 games, but they've only topped 160 rushing yards one time this year. So their rushing game hasn't been super dominant, hasn't been super explosive. They're going to need that to step up a little bit to beat Penn State, because if Penn State's defense can just hone in solely on the pass and kind of disregard the run, that's not good for Ohio State. You take a look at Penn State's defense. What to expect from them? Well, they're pretty dang stingy. They're one heck of a defense, guys. They're allowing less than 210 total yards per game on the year. They haven't allowed over 15 points on the year. They're giving up just 8 points per game. That's it. Many would say, well, Penn State hasn't played anybody. And to that, I say you're right. The best win was what? Iowa, who's nationally ranked now, wasn't ranked at the time. So the best win's Iowa, maybe West Virginia. They really haven't played anybody all that great. This is really Penn State's first true test of the year. But you still can't deny the stats and deny what they were doing, because you play 6-7 games and you're putting up these type of numbers, it's still insanely impressive. Only 8 points per game, 27 sacks. They've forced 13 turnovers on the year. This team, guys, this defense is so tough. But, as we mentioned, this is the best team Penn State has faced. This is the best offense that Penn State has faced. So, this is a team that when you look at it, the numbers, they're only giving up 75 rushing yards per game. Only giving up 75 rushing yards per game. And if you're Penn State, you've got to make sure you keep it around that this time around. I can say, you can let Ohio State rush for 110, 115 on you. I think you're going to be okay. But you let them top that 120, 130 mark, you're looking a little sketchy. Things are not looking too good. If that rushing defense stays where it's at, and you force Kyle McCord to deliver through the air, can he do that? Yes, but making Ohio State one-dimensional, like we said, is the biggest test, is the biggest key to success for Penn State. Find a way to make them one-dimensional where your secondary can maybe just hone in solely on McCord. And again, though, McCord, the best quarterback that Penn State has faced all year long. Ohio State, on the other hand, Jim Knowles defensively, he's doing Jim Knowles things, man. That's what he does. He's one of the best defensive minds in the game. The Buckeyes are giving up just 9.7 points per game. That's it. They're giving up less than 265 total yards per game. That's it. They're giving up less than 110 rushing yards per game. That's it. And they're giving up less than 160 passing yards per game. So very, very, very stingy. Again, Ohio State's been a little bit more battle-tested than Penn State. Obviously, that win over Notre Dame is a tougher game and a tougher environment than anything that Penn State has faced so far this year. In that game against the Fighting Irish, the Buckeyes allowed 175 passing yards and allowed 176 rushing yards. So the thing I'm kind of looking at here is which Ohio State defense shows up. I mean, they've put together complete games, no doubt about it, but allowing 176 rushing yards is not ideal. You can't do that. You can't do that against Penn State. They've only allowed, the most passing yards they've allowed they've only allowed over 204 passing yards once. That was to Western Kentucky. They beat them 63-10. Everything else has been less than that. So the secondary's been pretty solid. The rushing defense, for the most part, has been pretty solid. They forced 10 sacks. They forced 7 turnovers. But the biggest thing I'm looking at here, again, is making sure that the running defense shuts down Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, force Drew Aller to win the game through the air, and do that by creating a little pressure. You've got a young quarterback in Drew Aller that's now facing the toughest team of his young career and the toughest environment of his young career. Facing a Ohio State team in Columbus is not going to be easy. So, again, cakewalking through West Virginia, through Illinois, through Northwestern, that's great. Ohio State in Columbus is a completely different animal, and if you're Jim Knowles, if you're Ohio State, you've got to find a way to rattle him early and say, beat us. You alone have to beat us through the air. You've got to take some shots downfield to beat us in our house. And the question is, can Drew Aller do that? So what's going to happen, guys? What's going to happen? I think, per usual, this should be a really close, fun, exciting game. Again, the last 6 meetings have been decided by an average of 8 points per game. We've seen a couple of 1-point losses in there for Penn State. We saw some late collapses by Penn State, such as we saw last year. So I think, once again, you're going to see a close, maybe one-possession game in Columbus. I would be shocked if either team went out there and just dominated and won by double digits. And if they did win by double digits, it'd be like a late garbage time touchdown or a late defensive score as the other team's trying to go down there to win it or tie it. Like, I don't see either one of these teams is going out there and completely dominating. But ultimately, guys, I've got to side with Ohio State. I've got to take Ohio State in this game. I really love this Penn State team. I love them a lot, and they still have an opportunity to, you lose to Ohio State. If you can win out and beat Michigan and Happy Valley, their playoff hopes and Big Ten title hopes aren't done, but this one would be really, really nice to have. I think they get really, really close once again, but can't fully get over that hump. This passing attack for Ohio State, I think, is going to be a little too much for this Penn State defense. The home field advantage going to play a massive, massive role in this game. Kyle McCord throws for at least 300 yards in this one. A strong defensive performance from Ohio State gets them the win. They get one crucial stop at the end of the game, and Ohio State, by at least by a touchdown or less, 7 or less, defeats Penn State, remains undefeated, remains a top 4 team, sends Penn State back home searching for answers and in desperation mode, knowing they have to win out if they want to salvage this season. So there you have it, guys. The Buckeyes taking down Penn State in the game of the week, no doubt about it. Hopefully it will be just as good as last week's top 10 matchup between Oregon and Washington. Only a few more days and we'll finally have our answer. But as always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. We get a 43-18 run right now against the spread. Do not miss out on those picks. Go sign up with us today. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.